That's an interesting question. What do you mean by that? If I
Well, like there are like white people that have like been disenfranchised like recently, like
recently is the key. Recently is the
well,
key.
the country like deindustrialized, right? So like a lot of people in like manufacturing jobs and stuff, like
Right.
their areas were affected
But
by
so to your question, I think you have to understand what the word reparations means first. So reparations, you are repairing something that you have broken. You are paying for something that you were supposed to pay for. I'm not saying that there aren't people living in America today who are suffering and are going through pain and strife because of what's happening when it comes to, the machines taking jobs, factories becoming industrialized, etc. But reparations is a specific conversation about a specific time in America, and that is black people were slaves. You know what I mean? I've even heard people say like, oh, but there were some of the Irish who were indentured. Like, yeah, slavery. Look at the numbers, look at the time, look at the level of work. You could not work toward your freedom. For most black people in America, this was a time when you lived and died as a slave. And so that's what reparations is about. And so I hear what you're saying, but I think that's a completely separate conversation that needs to be had about the now. Because if you are not careful, what you then do is you combine everybody's suffering into the same bowl and you make it seem like all injustices have the same weighting, and they don't. Just like crimes, theft isn't the same as murder. We don't try them the same way. And as much as there is a white person who's suffering today, I feel for anybody who's suffering because I know what it's like to be poor. I know what it's like to suffer. I didn't come from a wealthy family. We struggled when I was growing up, but I also understand that there are levels of that suffering. And so sometimes white people, it does block a white person because you go white privilege and the person goes, I'm poor and I'm white. Where's the privilege? White people are like, I wish I could activate my white privilege. I wish I could do it right now. White privilege, give me something. I get that. I get that. Trust me, I get it. It is hard to accept that you have benefits because of the color of your skin if you cannot see the benefits that you have. But the thing I try to explain to a person is think of it more like golf. Don't think of it as privilege, then think of it like a handicap. Right? In golf, they acknowledge that you are in a position where you need so many advantages to be competitive in the game, right? So what they say is you have a handicap of 15, so that means like you're going to be hitting from this tee and you get more chances to get the ball in because we understand the position you're in. And if you're a black person in America, from slavery, from day one, the number of injustices that have held black people back in America amount to an insurmountable, like you look at black people's freedom, you look at black people's land, just land alone. The amount of wealth you can acquire over time if you own land is exponential because you have the land, you have the fact that you can borrow based on the land, you have the fact that you can use the money that you have borrowed to grow more wealth, you can use it to grow your family's wealth. Just taking that away from black people alone is crippling them. And so you combine that with slavery, and then you look at Jim Crow laws. You didn't let black people in America live in the areas that they wanted to live in. They couldn't get loans from the banks that they wanted to get loans from. And then on top of that, when they started getting the loans from American banks were found to be giving them higher interest rates when in fact they were the same risk as many of the other races that they were giving loans to. So when you combine all of those things, I think it's safe to say that black Americans have a conversation that they need to be having with the United States. Doesn't involve me, doesn't involve white people, it's like, yo, American government, meet the black people. That's it.
Listen, that dude is not even African American, and he got it, nailed it. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. I had to cheer myself because this is a topic that has to be broken down like that to some people. But we're going to talk about that because of what is going on right now in San Francisco. A landmark reparations recommendation. It's a recommendation at the moment, but I tell you what, we're going to talk about if that happens, if the city council adopts this recommendation, we all going to wish, all of us African Americans going to wish that we lived in San Francisco for about 20 years at least now. We're going to talk about that this morning. Also, we're going to talk about the political violence. America has become, its politics, to be specific, has become like a third world country. A SWAT team moved in and made the arrest of a MAGA sweatshirt wearing Republican in New Mexico as he stood in front of a bunch of Trump flags. The arrest of Solomon Pena on charges that he was behind multiple shootings, get this, at the home of several Democrats after he lost his election bid to the House of Representatives in November. We're going to have more on that this morning. And of course, the talk of reparations. And also, Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas introduced what some are calling an anti-white supremacy bill. And we will discuss that and how she had to do a takedown, a beautiful takedown of Lauren Boebert after she introduced the bill. All that this morning as we discuss with Terry Sanders, of Omaha Star. Terry's joined us from the home of Malcolm X, and of course, Katrina Hamilton. Thanks for joining us, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you. Let's start this morning with the bill. We're going to get to the reparations in San Francisco, and it's incredible. But start here. Sheila Jackson Lee says it's enough when it comes to racism and bigotry. The Democratic representative from Texas has introduced House Resolution 61, which would amend Title 18 of the United States Code to broaden the definition of hate crimes with the goal of preventing and prosecuting hate crimes motivated by white supremacy and conspiracy to commit such crimes. Just for an example, the text of the bill reads, a person commits a white supremacy inspired hate crime when white supremacist ideology has motivated the planning, development, preparation, or perpetration of actions that constitute a crime or were undertaken in furtherance of activity that, if effectuated, would have constituted a crime. So basically, when you get together and it's all about white supremacy, you commit a crime, she wants it to be a federal crime, and she wants the DOJ to also keep annual records and make annual reports to Congress about this. Katrina, it's the bill is not going to pass in this Republican-controlled House, but the thought of such a bill, give me your thoughts on a bill like this.
Well, it's interesting because here we are in 2023, still fighting for rights. And this is our country. And I don't want to name the news, station, but I think we all know the news station. This is their headline. Dems flagrantly unconstitutional anti-white supremacy bill would gut the First Amendment.
Yeah.
So they're already starting with this rhetoric, right? And it's interesting here in this country how we can acknowledge the wrongs against everyone. We can pass billions of dollars being spent in Ukraine, but we can't, we're fighting this anti-supremacy bill
And
with
eggs
this,
$8 a
right?
carton.
Right. And you all know I don't even like the term white supremacy because I just don't believe white people are supreme. I feel like their white entitlement would be more accurate because they feel entitled.
Mhm.
They feel entitled wherever they go, that if this were an issue that focused on white Americans, would it be flagrant? Would it gut the Constitution? We're talking about gun controls and saving people's lives, and yet they're always talking about the Constitution. It seems that they use the Constitution as rhetoric to protect themselves when it fits them.
Yeah.
And so, I'm at a loss of words because I don't know where we're going to go with this, but I commend, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee because she's outstanding. She is truly a trooper for our people.
Yeah. Paris Brown of the Baltimore Times writes in that America has this, it has happened, and let's move on attitude. And, to Katrina's point, Terry, Lauren Boebert, let me be nice, the Republican from Colorado, claimed that the legislation makes a mockery of the First Amendment. She looked at, of course, with Fox News, right? And they, of course, misrepresented the legislation intentionally. Is no mistake, right?
Right.
And so Sheila Jackson Lee had to school Lauren Boebert. She says, first of all, it took me about 32 seconds of reading the article you cited to understand that none of you know what you are talking about. I mean, she goes on to excoriate, which is not hard to do. But it's still pleasant to see Representative Jackson Lee excoriate such a, I'm going to be nice. So let me turn it over to you, Terry.
Well, the one thing is that when it comes to us and our rights, it always has to go around the block, through the back door, creep through the house to come out to be on the porch. And then when you get on the porch, nobody's there. So I think that I have high hopes for the bill. I'm sure my hopes will be dashed, but I do have high hopes. And you know what? We have to start calling it like it is.
Mm-hmm.
We have to call a dog and not a part of a cat because it has a tail. We have to call it for what it is. White supremacy is that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it has done a lot of damage. We don't even have to go back far. Take a couple years and the things that have been done in the name of white supremacy, and the people who are doing it call it just that.
Yeah.
They are
Well,
not ashamed. They
that's
do
it.
not call it something else. Yes, we are supreme. And I agree with Katrina. No, you're not. You're
Yeah.
really not.
Well, Mike
And
V.
so we have to watch it, and we have to continually police it. And as they say in the church, you got to stay on the wall and watch. You got to stay on the wall. And so that is what Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, she is on the wall on our behalf, and we need to back her up.
Yeah. Well, Mike V is watching on YouTube. Again, we encourage folks to go to our YouTube page as well and subscribe there. Some great content there. But he also makes a good point, I believe. Interestingly enough, he says the Republicans have no problem passing legislation banning critical race theory under the term anti-woke. They had no problem burning or banning books by Black authors as well. Very, very much true, right? When you think about the two, look what's happening here, Katrina.
And honestly, as you all know too, not only am I a journalist, but I'm an educator, and this battle has seeped into our education system,
There you
where
go.
these folks have won school board positions so that they can further ban curriculum to acknowledge the truth, and so h- who's really woke? It's like, who's really woke? And so, my comment is this: we know the problems, we've been knowing them for years. And that's why I commend Terry and so many others. We need to groom our children, our youth, and allow them to run for the House and the Senate and to win. I mean, we have to have positioning that is going to focus on passing our bills and our rights, because we can't depend on, I know we have to work with everyone else, but my goodness, we've been trying to overcome, in the anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr.'s
Overcome.
birthday, we've been overcoming longer than I've been alive,
Centuries.
Yeah.
centuries.
Well, Louise Countryman writes, if they would teach history instead of his story, there would be no need for critical race theory. Um, I almost thought you were going to say, Katrina, we need to groom our young ones to get out of the U.S.
But where would they go, right? Let's be honest, and I'm a sister who is married to a brother from Ghana. I consider myself a Pan-Africanist. I minored in Africana studies. And even when we go across the world and we go to the motherland, there's still nuances that we have to deal with, right?
Mhm.
As Black Americans. And so I think we need each other. We need our brothers and sisters throughout the diaspora, but we still need to position ourselves within this country because this is our country. How come everyone else can come over here and, come from nothing, right? And ascend to power, and yet
Mhm.
and still our necks are our foots are still being placed on our necks. And to the point of real estate, I'm here in San Diego, and my father was in construction, and he would talk about the types of homes that folks have. And I'm looking at some of these homes in these areas that are predominantly all white, or now they're Asian and white, and these are working class people, But guess what? These homes are worth $1.1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And structurally, they're really worth 200,000. But when we're talking about generational wealth in southeastern or southeast San Diego, where our folks were relegated to live in, the property value there is no more than 600 to 700,000 versus 1.1 million. Where is the justice there? So I know we're going to talk about the San
Well,
Francisco reparations, right?
well, that's a good
Right,
segue though.
right. And I look at that and I think about again tying into the all of the harm that has been done to our people, whether it's in school
Mm-hmm.
or whether it's at work or whether it's just walking down the street. In San Francisco alone, there's a case, and many of you probably know of it. It's Larry P. versus Riles, and it was in the 1970s, and it was about Daryl Lester. He was a student, a black male student in San Francisco Unified School District, who was labeled educable mentally retarded. And the Association of Black Psychologists had to advocate for him. This man is now in his 60s, San Francisco resident. He has gone from, depression, anxiety to just low paying jobs. And the one thing that he said he wants to have is to be able to read. He wants to be able to pick up a book and read. So to brother, Lester and all of those other black children and black people and families who Daryl Lester's mother didn't even know that her own child was being placed in special education. It wasn't until the Association of Black Psychologists had to come in. And one of the psychologists said, there's nothing wrong with this child. He had excelled in math, but because he was from Georgia, he had, an accent. They had discriminated against him. So I'm bringing this all back to reparations. I'm from Los Angeles County, and they're claiming, California, the governor wants to give us 250,000. Okay, that's great. But how am I going to get a house with that? But 5 million?
Not in Los Angeles. So
Not in Los Angeles,
$250,000.
but 5 million. Give that to Lester, Mr. Lester, and all the other black residents who are mostly homeless now because of the gentrification in San Francisco. When you go to San Francisco, you see so many
Well,
black homeless people.
and
I'm going to
and
stop there. I'm sorry.
no, that's okay, Katrina. You bring up some great points because the gentrification and the education part is all in this. You guys got to read this reparations bill that is actually it's a recommendation this committee San Francisco put together during the height of course, like everything else, when George Floyd situation happened. They put together this reparations committee, which has now, and you can read about this in the Black press. We have a comprehensive story up about this. But each African-American San Francisco resident, including those arrested during the racist war on drugs, should receive, and descendants of those arrested during the war on drugs as well. If you are a relative, I should say, of those, you are eligible, if this plan goes through, to receive a lump sum payment of $5 million from the African American Reparations Advisory Committee. Assuming the city council approves it, it would be by far the most significant payment of reparations in American history. This covers, and here's the thing, Terry, this is not specifically about the slave trade.
No, it is not. It's about injustice.
It's totally about injustice.
And
as the war on drugs, going back to redlining and things of that Katrina mentioned. Go ahead, Terry. Tell us more about it, because you guys got to look this bill.
It is about injustice. It is not even leveling the playing field, but it is, as Trevor Noah said, to repair something that has been broken. I love that. Oh, I'm going to use that time and time again. Repair something that has been broken. And not only are they going to get the $5 million, people who are living below the poverty level, they will get debts cleared. They will get special loans from banks. In other words, they have now been elevated to king and queen status. And when you walk in, you will have a certain amount of respect because of the hue of your skin. And we all know that when you walk in and you go in the bank, they're looking around and, people are clutching their purse that's already there who
Yep.
do not have as much melanin as we do. And I think that this is wonderful. I'm like you, Stacy. I wish I lived in San Francisco.
Well, here's the
I
thing,
lived there
Terry.
long enough to get a piece of this rock. But I applaud the
Oh
people,
yeah.
and not only those who have suffered, but also their relatives. If that person is dead and gone, their relations get money.
See, you got to remember too, California was not part of the slave trade, but what they are saying here in San Francisco is that California did house and promote the Ku Klux Klan and others
Oh,
who oppressed, killed, and had violent actions against African Americans. It mentions too, Katrina, that violent actions from the 40s and the 60s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, I should say, and to just to bring this out to qualify. Residents must have self-identified as Black or African American on public documents for a minimum of 10 years and be at least 18 years old when the committee's plan is approved, which the approval of the plan, many believe, or optimistic, I should say, will happen this spring. They may be required to show that they were born in San Francisco between 1940 and 1996, have been residents of the city for at least 13 years, and are either a former inmate themselves or a direct descendant or of a former inmate who served time during that war on drugs. This is it's incredible. We
huge.
haven't even began we talked about the 5 million, but the task force believes that Black Californians may be awarded $569 billion for housing discrimination alone between 1933 and 1977. There are programs that they would put in place that would pay residents, Black residents, who live at a certain level below the poverty line, a certain amount of money for the next 250 years. Talk about several lifetimes over and over again. They would have a Black bank, a dedicated Black bank. They would forgive all credit card debt, student loan debt, payday loan debt, which of course that industry targets African Americans.
Right.
We can go on and on. Again, read this document. It was almost, I had to read it several times to believe that they would actually put this together, and these officials put this together, Katrina.
I saw Terry's hand up too, and I was going to speak after her, but I want to say a couple of things. I think this is phenomenal. Um, but my question too is that this is outstanding, and I wish this task force
Mhm.
represented the whole state of California, because we could go back to my great grandfather who was unable to buy property west of Broadway, all the way to present day. But the real issue too is the amount of mental health and
Mhm.
wellness, right? The damages to our mental health,
The report
and
mentions
all
that,
the
by the way,
trauma.
Katrina.
Yes, and I think that's important. You know, um, there are some naysayers, and I always like to have two sides. Well,
Mhm.
if you give the money to them, those people, all they're gonna do is spend it up anyway. So
You're
what?
free to
Give us
do
the
what you
money.
want with it.
Right. It's
Give
our
it to us.
money.
Give it
Exactly.
to us.
Because we have paid reparations to everyone else. We paid reparations to our Japanese brothers and sisters for the 1940 Pearl Harbor, and all the discrimination that happened there. We've given some land back to our Native American brothers and sisters that we wrongfully took away in the first place. But for all of the labor and the sweat and the tears that Black
Mhm.
folks, there was a Black woman, Biddy Mason, who, she played an integral part in the history of California. So, although, like you both said, slavery did not occur in California, there are so many things that happen here. There
Mhm.
was lynching that happened just in 2020. You know,
Well, they
and
mentioned state sanctioned lynching in the package as well. Katrina, let me
yes,
ask you a question though. It's another side of this though, and it's brought up. I guess I got to give credit to Dr. Nicole McDaniel. Where will this money come from?
That's my question.
that's a
If you
great
got that much
question.
money, where 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 have you been keeping it?
Well, I have to say, as a Californian, we pay a lot of money for so many other programs, and a lot of money
You pay a
for
lot of taxes out there too.
we pay a lot of taxes, and we pay a lot of taxes that go towards providing free help. I know I'm going to get in trouble, but we provide for so many other folks.
Oh yeah.
It's time to provide for us. When we look at every major city in California, whether it's San Francisco, whether it's Los Angeles, you can go up and down, or Oakland, you can go up and down the Golden State. The vast majority of homeless people are Black, period. Black. And yet we only make up 15% of, the population according to the census. But we make up over 50, 60% of the homeless population in these major cities.
And I think,
Black folks are go ahead, Terry. I'm
no,
sorry.
I was going to say, I question where the money's coming from, but I don't think that it is not well deserved.
Right.
It's well deserved. It's hundreds
It
of
is
billions
more
of
than
dollars,
well
Terry.
deserved. And I guess my other piece to that is, I'm from conservative Midwest, United States. So when that money is paid, please have some kind of counseling in place
Yes.
so that it lasts for
Yes.
generations,
Yes.
and just not just stop
Yes.
with that person,
Yes.
that particular household. Show them how to stretch it, show them
Yes.
how to invest,
Yes.
show them the things that other cultures know how to do,
Yes.
but is not very open to us.
Terry,
Yeah.
thank you for bringing me back,
Mhm.
because that was the point. Like, this now it's time for, our organizations like the Urban League and other
Yes.
organizations to come in with housing programs and to
Mhm.
be able to show our people not only how to invest, but to help them buy that first home and
There
help
you
them
go.
take a percentage of that money. And just like they do when they tell you when you win, what is it, a
The
lottery
lottery.
ticket, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Consult a tax agent, hide that ticket. They tell you all of these things before you
Mhm.
claim it. And that's what we need to do too. So your
Well,
point
and you
is
remember,
extremely well taken.
in this proposal, in this draft proposal, there is financial education included at no cost. There's
Right.
all of that you speak of, the mental health aspect at no cost. All of this, Claudette Perry says the government has the money. Joe Biden
Yes.
revealed that if they give reparations to African Americans, watch the economy grow. I
Yes.
cannot disagree with that at all.
No.
Oh yeah.
This is something that we kind of talked about years ago. If you recall, when President Obama bailed out the auto industry and the banks in particular, and I always remember that they came to Washington with their hands out, but they came in private jets and limousines, which was really interesting to me. But there was a debate at that time about paying off the mortgages of Americans instead of giving the money to corporations, and that way paying off their mortgages would free up all of this money to jumpstart and really invigorate the economy. Of course, that was shot down because
Mhm.
who would get it, right? who
But
who would be free of debt?
there's another point though, and um, let's talk about economic development versus
Mhm.
economic growth.
Yes.
Economic growth rests with the people. Economic development rests with the government. And I know that this is a proposal on the table, and we here in the city of Omaha are dealing with getting some large monies infused into our communities to develop. But it is a proposal. It has to go through government to become a reality. And
Mhm.
we all know that they get on that floor and get to talking and whittling down and trimming back. And now it started at a $5 million recommendation,
Right.
and $250,000 for so many years. It gets whittled back to $1,000 and $10,000. And but that's our government. That is how government operates.
That's how they operate.
And so we have to make sure that we are in the room
Yes.
to protest. Good people of San Francisco, get in the room, go to the hearing. We're waiting for it, but you can't just wait.
Yeah. Proactive.
They say that you are blessed as you go,
Yes. Yes.
not while you wait, but
Yes.
as you go. So we need to be going and showing up and making sure that it goes through as it was proposed.
And putting
know,
pressure
Katrina-
on. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was
Stacey.
gonna mention something that you talked about earlier in San Diego with the prices of the homes in San Francisco. As you well know, we're talking. I'm sure the average home is either approaching or about $1 million.
It's probably close to 2 million just for
2
the
million.
average home, right?
Wow.
So San Francisco is definitely much higher than all the other places or other cities and areas. But I also want to go back to your point and Terry's point about the representation. We need to place a lot of pressure on our representatives. You know, we vote them into office. And here in California, right now, we don't have a lot of representation. Now, when there are bills that focus on our other communities of color, because they have the representation, those bills pass.
They
Yeah.
get it.
They get it. And so because we really don't have the representation currently, like Dr. Akilah Weber has tried to pass a couple of bills and they did not pass, you know, because we don't have the majority. And so we need to put pressure on these folks who claim that they represent us in office. And so even if you don't live in San Francisco, if you are a Black Californian, going back to Terry's point, if you are a Black Californian, you need to show up. You need to put pressure on the legislation. So you know that when this passes, or if it passes with close to that 5 million versus that 10,000,
Right.
that's going to set precedents for everyone else throughout
Everywhere
the
else.
entire
Yeah.
country.
And that
So-
is law. And they will always look back to remember in San Francisco,
Yes.
Mhm.
you know, just
Yeah.
like when you're in court and they say, well, this law back in this year did this.
Yes.
Why is this different?
Yes.
And so it opens up the door
Yeah.
and lets
yeah.
all the cows out the barn.
Mhm.
But
Well,
I hope that it happens.
It's going back to the beginning of this program when Greer showed us the Trevor Noah dissertation. I mean, it
Right.
was right on point, and this goes back to how affected African Americans have been since we built this nation. And make no
Yes.
mistake about it, African Americans built this. So I want to go back to Katrina's point, because she said when we talked about, well, going to Africa or going somewhere, this is our land.
Yes.
And because we built, our ancestors built this land.
Yes.
And so, we often talk about how the Americans duped and misled and mistreated and robbed the Native Americans. Who put the blood and the sweat and the tears into building this country?
Yep.
There's no question about it.
Yep.
There's absolutely no debate whatsoever. And Trevor was saying about getting it, people not understanding what to repair is, and we often hear about other incidents. The Holocaust always comes to mind, and as horrendous as that was, when it ended, it ended. The far-reaching effects is that that's a people who have been repaired and repaired. Yes, there is still a lot of hate against Jewish people, but they've been repaired. Slavery ended. It did not really end.
There was no repair.
And there's never been a repair.
There's never been a repair, Stacy and Terry, and folks don't let you forget about the Holocaust. It's
Right,
ingrained in all of our curriculum, whether
right.
you're in kindergarten or you're in college. Yet
And
Yes.
they
when
want
we
to take
talk,
they want to take slavery out of the books.
right.
They
Well,
don't
they
want you
want
to
to
know
take
anything
the
about it.
truth about slavery out of the books.
That's
As long
true.
as we yes them and and
That
everything
part
is
is fine.
good,
Hmm.
that's fine
Hmm.
Yeah.
because it's
Well,
about stratification.
But
you
isn't
know,
that what the black press is for?
That's right,
To
there
never
Terry.
you
let
go.
them
Bring us
forget.
back. Yes, ma'am.
That's
We
it.
will continue to follow. I promise you, we're going to continue to follow what's going on in San Francisco. Um, you can continue to check us out at Black Press USA, but check us out here. This is where you get the up to the minute stuff
Yes.
here. We are filing, yes, on blackpressusa.com, and really our member papers is where who gets it first, and
Mhm.
then Black Press USA. But we get it even before our member papers right here. Let it be known. So just come jump on, check us out, and we'll give you that information. But we're gonna follow that for sure. Listen, this country, you talk about this country politically, it's a third world country now. Nobody can
Mhm.
tell me any different, at least
Right.
when we've seen what's gone on since the Trump years and this rise of the MAGA Republicans. Former Republican candidate for the New Mexico House of Representatives was arrested on Monday for allegedly organizing men to shoot at the homes of Democrats in the state. These are the Democrats he lost his election against. They won't accept the L. They're not taking the L. What's going on, Katrina?
They're mad. No, it
They
goes
are
back
mad in a lot
again.
of ways. Up there too.
It's white entitlement. They feel like they're entitled to this. They feel like they can do it, or white supremacy, whatever we feel,
People
whatever
lost in
term
the
it is.
past. You lost an
Yes.
election. You lost. You walked away.
No, he feels that he's entitled to that position, and
And
it's
this
his right.
man demanded that the people that he was um quote unquote employing to do these heinous things, he said, well, you need to do it while the people are up walking around so we make sure we hit somebody. And I'm like,
Good Lord.
So the malicious intent, and think
yes,
about
it's
this
there.
malicious intent, right? And
Yes,
let's look and see when we're talking about inequities. Will he serve time? And if so, what will be his sentence?
it needs to be life.
Well, yeah,
And put him
right.
in there with some people that, you know,
Who are
don't
in there
care.
unjustly and have been there for years.
Right, right. And don't put him in a country club prison situation. Put him down there with the mice and the rats and stuff. I
It's
mean,
amazing to hear Black women discuss this. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we tell the truth.
but that is it, so he goes to prison. Does he stay long enough? Is he in surroundings that are less than, or is he in surroundings that are more than? I think we need to look at that, because our people are in the less than part.
We're in
But
the less than part. Oh, go ahead, Stacey. I'm sorry.
yeah, but Katrina, and as Power 96 says, call it what it is, domestic terrorism. It goes back to January 6th, right? Uh,
Yep.
this it continues, and we're seeing people get locked up with January 6th, and we're seeing their hero, their messiah, Trump, not
Walking around.
can't do anything about it because he's not in power, right? And yet this still, Carrie Lake is still to this moment not conceding her loss in court, trying
No,
to get them to overturn the election. And
she's.
now you have this
You have
overt
this.
violence.
Well, look at this. I mean, I'm also looking at the caption, and I'm looking at Solomon Pena's surname,
Mhm.
Mhm.
right? And so let's not go there, right? Because again, that's why we have to also be careful when we're talking about white supremacy. Because is Mr. Pena of Hispanic descent? Does he identify as white?
Right, right.
There are so many other layers to that, and yet, we use the term people of color when it's convenient, but you have this man who is flagrantly just violating the law.
Right.
And when you go to prisons all across the United States, you'll see that the vast majority of prisoners are either Black men or Black women.
Yes.
followed by brown men and brown women, and then our Asian brothers and sisters who are predominantly Filipino and Vietnamese. But look at how this is playing out. We're looking at his picture, we see him as a white male, and
Mhm.
we're wondering, if he were black, would he have survived? Would he be
Mm,
No,
able
they'd
to
have
be
shot him on
handcuffed?
sight.
They would have shot him on sight. So
mm.
the dehumanization of black people is real.
Mhm.
And even here, this man is able to walk away scot-free and looks like he has a smirk on his face. And he'll
With his
probably
glasses
even claim,
intact.
with his glasses intact, and he'll probably claim that he was, what is it? What is it? You all help me out, but not temporarily insanity or something. But he'll
Something
get
like
out of
that.
this.
Something like that, yeah. And Power 96 brings up he says, now this is his reporting because I don't know, but I'm going to give him this. He says Pena has already served 7 years in prison for robbery. He is a repeat offender. Give
Also,
him the
he's a
low
bad
ride.
apple.
Yeah,
Wow.
and he's mad that he lost.
But that, and we're not even talking about this. What about Mr. Santos?
Yes,
Well,
I
Been a
saw
bad
that.
Mike
apple the
V.
whole
This is what
time.
Mike V. says something very
Yes.
interesting. He writes in that the White House should use ICE to investigate George Santos' legal status and detain him like they do our Haitian folk at
Sure,
the border.
sure,
Oh my
sure.
gosh. Our Haitian
Again,
brothers and sisters. Jeez.
it is not a fair treatment.
It certainly isn't.
It
And it
is
all goes
Santos
just
back
is
to
not
still
race.
in
fair.
Congress. Every day Santos is in Congress is you talk about a grave injustice. That's a grave injustice.
And got
Yes.
appointed to the Small Business Committee.
Oh no, he didn't.
Yeah,
Yes,
he
he
did.
did.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
it gets
So,
worse.
I mean, even what's Miss Green, Miss Taylor Green or Green Taylor,
Marjorie Taylor
they
Greene.
wouldn't seat her on anything. And here he is getting a seat at a table
Yeah. Yeah.
that could affect, and he stole money in Brazil.
Yeah,
I'm just,
Paris Brown of the Baltimore Times says they bought what Trump sold, and she says that we need to do another show to unpack these issues.
yes,
And I can't agree more. I
yes,
mean,
yes.
because it's a lot. We try to squeeze this into a half hour or 45 minutes,
It's
but
tough.
it's a lot. It's a
It's
lot.
tough.
It's a
But
lot. That's what makes me wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to be here.
oh gosh,
That's
yes.
right, because you're in California.
I'm in California.
Mm,
But that's what Let It Be Known is for, right?
Yes,
That's
it
what the
is.
Black press of
yeah,
America is about. Because who else is discussing this like this?
nobody.
No one.
And so we have to continue to plead our own cause. For too long, others have spoken for us. So that reparation, I love. We can play that Trevor Noah bit every day because
Yeah,
that is on point. Thanks so much, Katrina. I know 4 o'clock in the morning. I know the feeling, and we really appreciate you, Terry. Terry in that Omaha, the home of Malcolm X. Don't forget Omaha,
Yes, that's
Nebraska,
right.
the home of Malcolm X. We got to do a show from Omaha
Yes, we
when the
yes,
snow
do.
goes
please,
away.
please,
When the
please.
snow goes, me
When the
and
snow
Greer,
goes
we
away. See,
refuse
that's not right.
Greer and I refuse to go out to all that bad weather. We
Greer came
refuse.
once though in February,
We
and
going to Puerto Rico in February.
I know that's right. And
We
I'm
are
gonna move
going where the
into it.
warm weather is.
I hear you. I hear you. But you know what? It is so important that this kind of platform exists where we can keep it real and we can talk about the things that really affect our people.
Yeah,
And
truth to power.
this
Truth
is
to
just
power.
priceless. It's priceless.
And there you go. Well, you guys are priceless. We thank you so much again, and everybody. We are gonna keep bringing this to you again. Subscribe to our YouTube page. Let It Be Known's YouTube page. Already, Greer is already filling it with some great stuff. You check it out. What's new over there, and check us out again tomorrow as we continue to let it be known for the Black press of America. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you then.
Thank you.